Well, Razorback fans, yesterday's podcast caused quite a stir about Razorback athletics and why they should be better. I'm going to tell you why here on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday afternoon starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. If you win your first bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday. As I've mentioned there in the opening, I was really appreciative of the amount of people that tuned in and checked out yesterday's podcast. I had a lot of people reaching out and talking about it, and I appreciate it. You know, I always wonder when I record a podcast how people are going to react to it, if it was in a positive light or a negative light, and if it even sounded good or anything. But a lot of times I just shoot from the hip. You know, I just go off of what I'm feeling and the emotions that I have, and sometimes I just start talking. I don't really know where it's going to go. So, but I do appreciate it. But one of the follow-ups that people had and requested, I guess, is when I talked about yesterday how Arkansas needs to be better and should be better, and the administration who has failed, and a lot of things that are failing at Arkansas. And I'm not saying like everybody asked this exact same question, but one of the questions kind of became of, why do you think Arkansas in this era, in this time of college sports and college athletics, should be better? Like, what makes them in a better situation or set up for more success than what they had been in previous years? Which is a fair question, and it's a fair discussion to have, because I have thought about this a lot. I've thought about just where things stand in college athletics, and also just, you know, how it's approached. It's approached by administration. It's approached by athletes. It's approached by coaches. It's approached by fans. It's all done through a different lens. But at a place like Arkansas, to me, it's always just been about how you can set yourselves up for success. And for a long time, particularly football, but we'll even throw some other sports in there too, it just always felt like Arkansas was kind of capped a little bit. You know, they can only do so much under the old ways of how college sports used to work, whether it was recruiting, whether it was facilities, whether it was anything like that. It was all just kind of like, you know, what do you do? You know, what can you really do? You can hope, you can pray, you can just maybe get a great crop of classes coming in from the state of Arkansas. There's just a lot of things that had to go your way and happen all at once for you to have a lot of success. And then when NIL and transfer portal and all of this stuff started happening, people had their own conclusions on what it would do to college athletics. And I don't think there's any doubt that it's made it worse where it's at right now. It doesn't mean it can't get better. It doesn't mean it can't still be fun, still be exciting. Doesn't mean we're still not going to watch, but there's no doubt that it has made a turn for the worse. But when it first happened, I remember thinking to myself, and even talking about it on my radio show, I guess, that I felt like this was the perfect opportunity now for Razorback athletics, particularly Razorback football, to get themselves into the mix of national relevance and national competitiveness. This was their opportunity. This was their chance. Because now it evened the playing field so much more. Now, that doesn't mean that the big-time schools are still going to have a leg up on some of the smaller schools. It's just the way it is. But you could narrow the gap so much more. You could really do some great things with this NIL and transfer portal to turn yourself into a team that can win, and can win titles, and can compete for titles and everything, if it's done the right way. The key phrase in all of that, folks, is if it's done the right way. I don't buy for a second that the reason that Arkansas has had these struggles is because of they've done everything the right way. They've approached and attacked everything the right way, but golly gee, it's just some bad luck. I don't buy into that narrative. I believe that it has been a way that Arkansas could set itself up and could have set itself up for a high level of success, but due to lack of leadership, due to lack of aggression, lack of focus, and the lack of adapting in some regards, has caused Arkansas to become behind the eight ball. They're a square peg in a round hole. They are living in the 2010s of college sports when everybody else is in the 2020s. It seems archaic almost. And it's disappointing because if there's one thing I know about Razorback fans and what they can accomplish and what they see as a program in general, is that if you're successful, you'll never have to worry about asking for money or asking people to come to games or asking people to, just do whatever it takes and dig deep into their pockets and pull out some money to invest and to do things to be a part of that success. Like they'll do anything for that. Winning cures all ills. We all know that. But at a place like Arkansas, it's always been about that. It's always been. I've seen it firsthand. I remember with Razorback football and Bobby Petrino. The money was just flooding in. People were willing to do whatever it took. That's why they built the new practice facility with Bobby Petrino and that building that was incredible and state of the art. They did that because of the amount of money that was being brought in. And that's what my whole point to this is when the portal and I'm really talking about NIL, but even the portal itself, that seemed right up Arkansas's alley. Because if you can't find ways to recruit or out-recruit the Bamas and the LSUs and the Georgias of the world because they have so much more in the previous era of college football and college sports, well, now you can have something else because now it comes down to money, the most important thing. Whether it's right or wrong, whether you like it or not, it's the most important thing. You could find a way to maneuver and make it work to benefit you more so than anybody. Because you do have money. You do have people that are willing to buy into it if it means success to come along with it. Fans are willing to do that themselves. And big donors and big boosters, which Arkansas does have quite a few of those, I know that they would be too. And the transfer portal is a whole nother animal where, forever it was always about, just finding that right crop of kids from the state of Arkansas to come together, and that's really how you have your best years. Or getting that once-in-a-generation type player like a Darren McFadden or a Matt Jones, getting somebody like that just at the right time, and then it all works out. Well, with the transfer portal, it changed it up so much to where, that would be great to still have a Darren McFadden or a Matt Jones. But now you could go get established college football players, college players in general, where they went to other schools. They showed at their age and where they're at that they can play and play at a high level, and they jump into the portal, and you can get those guys. Knowing already, hey, this is what we're getting. We're not having to worry about, did he not play in a big enough high school classification? You just know, hey, this guy can play. We bring him on. It'll be great. Those are things that Arkansas should just relish in and be amazing at year in and year out in every sport. But they're not. They're not. And it goes into leadership. It goes into a culture, a mentality to where you still have a respect and an appreciation for all the fans of all walks of life. And that you're willing to use their money, their support, their everything that they're willing to give you, and then return the favor and showing your appreciation by not only getting them nice seats and games and all those things, but more importantly, winning. And even if you're not winning, providing hope, legitimate, justifiable hope that the winning will come soon. But you don't have that. And so when I talked about it yesterday, if I was Arkansas and why it needs, like why they should be succeeding, it's because of those reasons. The system is not why Arkansas is struggling. It has nothing to do with the system. It has nothing to do with the NIL or the transfer portal. It has nothing to do with those things. Because one, other programs, so many other programs are highly succeeding because of it. And two, you have really not dove into and embraced and tried to organize the system to benefit you at all to even know if it works. In football, you had like that 1 year where you had a great transfer class and you really did some good things with the NIL. And you just haven't done anything since. And so don't blame the system. Fans, don't blame the modern era of college sports and why Arkansas is struggling. Blame those who failed to adapt, who failed to embrace, who failed to aggressively pursue it and own it like these other schools are doing. Because for whatever reason, they want to make sure that they want you to think that they're the smartest people in the room. I'll never understand it, and I don't know if it'll ever come out. It's so strange to me how it's come to this and how the approach is just so nonchalant when you're getting lapped everywhere else. I know I keep beating that dead horse, but it's just fascinating in the most horrible type of way for me. It's a fascination I have. Where it's just nobody cares, nobody wants your help, nobody likes it. I even read Hunter Yurchek's tweets yesterday, just kept going through, and it was like, I'm just going to read the first 2 words of every tweet, and every one of them was just like, good luck or congrats. So, and I'm not just trying to hound on Hunter Yurchek, I'm just talking about the whole administration and everybody in general. It's just, yikes. It doesn't need to be this way. The system, I'll end on this, the system that is in place, whether it's NIL, whether it's portal, whether it's the conference realignment, whatever it is, Arkansas, you are set up for success. You're in the SEC. You're in the best conference there is. You're getting the most money with revenue sharing that you could get from any other conference. Granted, so is all the other teams in the conference, but you're going to make a killing. You have big boosters. You have a great campus with a great setup for success. You have a great fan base. You have a transfer portal and an NIL to really take you to the next level in a way that you haven't been able to do before. You have all these things. But it's just up to you to take those things and to utilize them and weaponize them and make yourself great. And so far, you haven't really done it. But that's why Arkansas should be succeeding. They're not, but they should. Talk about John Calipari. What's his end game here at Arkansas? We'll get to that coming up next year on Locked On Razorbacks podcast, so stay with us. All right, Razorback fans, from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keep every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. What is the end game for John Calipari at Arkansas? I think it's a fascinating deal. I'm good friends with Aaron Torres. A lot of you know him, Fox Sports Radio guy, Aaron Torres podcast. Really plugged in with college basketball. And he was not, I don't think, talking seriously about it. More of just theorizing, which I like to do, and, just throw it out there for discussion. About the possibility of Cal just calling it quits after this year. If it ends up going as bad as what it looks like, just throwing his hands up and be, all right, I'm done. I'm just going to ride out, and I don't want to taint my legacy anymore. I'm over the hill. I'm done for. I ain't trying to do this anymore. I'm going to leave. I don't think that's going to happen, nor do I want it to happen. But it did get me thinking of Cal and his end game. It got discussed a lot for Cal coming to Arkansas, that he needed a new fresh start, needed to re-energize himself, needed to do things a little bit differently, and he has, and it's failed. We talked about it a little bit, but the failure comes at his own hand. But going into it, I don't think that's the way he approached it. I don't think he came to Arkansas being like, oh, I'm just going to collect a check, get fat and happy, not really care, and ride off into the sunset a richer man. I don't think that's the case, and I won't think that's the case until proven otherwise. So what's his end game? Like, what does he want to do and accomplish here at Arkansas? Well, we know it's very evident that his number one priority here, and no matter where he's been, Kentucky, Memphis, all those places, has never been about winning a national championship. Like, that's not been the goal, number one priority. And it's always been the thing that's rubbed me the wrong way about Cal since the very beginning. I don't really like that mentality as a fan, because as a fan, your number one priority is winning a national championship. And when a coach's number one priority and the fan's number one priority are two different priorities, that's where things can get a little bit dicey. But I do believe that Cal, being here at Arkansas, I think he understands that this is a place, going back to what we talked about before, a setup and a system that's in place to help him succeed. And it's there. And the support will be there once he starts actually showing some competence when it comes to winning and to becoming, what he needs to become as a coach here at Arkansas. But he's accomplished everything as a coach. We talk about like Dave Van Horn. Dave Van Horn's accomplished every single thing except for that one thing, the biggest thing of winning a title. And how that fuels him and fuels coaches like him to accomplish that and to finally get that one thing. When there's something missing from your trophy case that other people have, it bothers you, it eats at you, and it drives you. But with Cal, he's accomplished everything. He's won a national title. He's been to Final Fours. He's had number one overall draft picks. He's had first round picks. He's had player of the years. He's had All-Americans. He's had everything and anything that you can accomplish, he's had. He's already done. So when you're at Arkansas and you're in his position, like what is the approach that you're taking? Like, what is it making you feel whenever you come into this building and you're John Calipari and you have a complete new change of scenery? What drives you? He talks about helping out families, and that's great. And what he does for players and the respect that players have for him and vice versa, like all of that. Great. It's great stuff. But did he come to Arkansas because it was just a lifeboat that was thrown to him? And he decided to take it and do this, like what he's doing right now? Is that it? I mean, did he really come into Arkansas thinking he was, hey, I'll win a national championship here? I mean, is that really what he came into place for? Is that really what he feels like he can do here? Or what? Like, what is it? If you asked him, I'm sure he'd give you an answer of talking about whatever he wants to talk about and polling the audience and be like, saying stuff like, hey, how many times have I been here? How many times have I talked to you? How many times have I won games? a lot of games. Like he just give you some generic nonsense. But if he wants to last here, if he wants to be remembered here, and he may not even care about being remembered here, but if he wants to be remembered here as a positive, if he wants to be remembered like an Eddie Sutton, like a Nolan Richardson, like a Mike Anderson, like even an Eric Musselman, if he wants to be remembered in the same breath and in the same way as those individuals, which I'm not talking about just the winning part of it, but I'm just talking about the likability, the favorability. If he wants to be remembered like that, he's got to change everything quickly and to really provide something for. Because if he doesn't, he is going to be remembered, as crazy as it is to say, he's going to be remembered as the Stan Heaths, John Pelfreys, Brett Bielema's, Chad Morris's. He's going to be remembered in that breath. Call me crazy, but I think it's absolutely in play. Let's just hope we don't have to worry about it. College football officially came to an end. Ohio State won the title. Whoopee. I want to talk about it, though. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, this message is brought to you by Prize Picks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of winnings, Prize Picks has changed the game in the daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least two players, and if your picks hit, you can get up to 1,000 times your cash. That's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. For me, it's all about the hot takes this season and all about the playoffs and all about the good stuff there. And you know who's in it. You know who the teams are going to be in it. So go and check it out and play with it. And it makes it a lot more fun to predict and easy to play. And with Flex Play, you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you also get winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. So ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So Ohio State beat Notre Dame in the championship, and I'll tell you this, guys. I just did not care about the college football championship this year. There wasn't any juice to it, and I think part of it was maybe the teams, but I also think part of it was just how long it was. I mean, these teams had not played in a week and a half. It's a Monday night, which is bull crap. I hate the fact that they play on Monday night. College football championship should be played on a Saturday night because that's when college football is. So I just think there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think everybody universally hates Ohio State, and nobody cares about Ohio State winning except for Ohio State fans. They can celebrate it, great, but yeah, I don't really care about it. But it just comes to an end, and we got to see what the playoff was like at the expansion of 12 teams. And I've talked about some of the adjustments I'd like to make, and I think everybody likes to make too. But isn't it amazing that after all of that, after all of the pomp and circumstance, after all the craziness, after all the debates and whether it was right or wrong or whatever it is, you had Ohio State, Notre Dame in the championship, like two very historic programs, very blue-blooded programs in football, and that was it. And you had Penn State and Texas as the other semifinalist. This year wasn't the year to have anybody else get into the mix. And frankly, folks, I think it's going to be like this for a very long time. Anybody that has the idea that other teams that have never competed for a championship or been in a championship game or anything like that over the past 20 years are suddenly just going to start making it easily, you're fooling yourselves and you're kidding yourselves. Like, Ole Miss is not going to win or play for a national championship. It's just not going to happen. Texas A&M is not going to. All right? It's just not in the cards. It's not going to be one of those things that actually happens. It's just something that college football At the end of the day, even with NIL, even with transfer portal, all that stuff, you're still got to be a big boy program with big boy coaching, with big boy budgets, with big boy everything. And I'm sorry, I just don't see any way that some of these random small teams sneak in consistently into the championship or into the semifinals. Like, I know that TCU made it the other year. They got killed, but they made it, and that was kind of almost the exception to the rule. Cincinnati made it into the playoff, but they didn't win. My point is, you still have the blue blood programs that are winning this and playing for it. So what's really changed at the end of the day? Not too much of anything. But sad day. College football's over. It'll be here before we know it. Spring practice, anyone? Maybe? I'm trying over here. But either way, appreciate each and every one of you listening and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have, and we'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.